Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, let's go. Be'ezrat Hashem, tonight we're going to be learning Parashat Tzav. This week's Parashat. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for the learning of the weekly Parashat Tzav. We were asked to learn tonight Lilu Nishmat Kochava Bat Sarah Zichron Livracha Meir Neshama Gohain Hain Gan Eden. For the Refuah Shlema, also tonight is the Shloshim of Mr. Sharifian Mordechai ben Yehoshua, may his neshama go higher and higher in Gan Eden, and also for the Refuah Shlema of Shmuel Moshe ben Pnina, Rabbi Baruch ben Sivya, Rabbi bat Rivka. Any other names you want to add? Refuah Shlema, please let me know.
Abraham ben Nahama.
Abraham ben Nahama.
Nisan ben Nejat.
Nisan ben Nejat. May they have a Refuah Shlema b'toch she'ar cholei Yisrael. Amen. Okay. All right, gentlemen, let's do this. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, guys, so the parasha starts off talking about the mitzvah of sacrificing a korban olah. There are many different types of korbanot. A person could bring a peace offering to Hashem. A person can bring a sin offering to Hashem. A person can bring a thanksgiving offering, all different types of offerings. One of them is called the korban olah. Korban olah is a burnt offering. Olah means it goes up, meaning that none of it is given to the people at all. Usually, there are different parts of the animal that go either to the Kohanim that offer up the animal. Some of the korbanot have parts that go to the people that offer up the animal, meaning the owners of the animal. Usually, something gets eaten, right? At some point, somebody will be eating something. Not so for this one. This one is korban olah, which means it goes up to Hashem. The only thing that they get from it is the hide. The hide means the skin of the animal. That's it. The Kohanim get the skin, but that's it. They have to take the skin off of the animal. The rest of it goes up to Hashem on the Mizbeach. It gets burnt, and that's it. And it gets completely burnt. So the pasuk over here says, Tzav et Aaron ve'et banav le'emor. Command Aaron and his sons, saying, Zot Torah Ta'olah, this is the Torah, this is the rule about the Olah. Hi ha'olah al-mukdah, this is the one that's going to get burnt. It's going to go up and get burnt ala mizbeach, on the altar. Kol halayla, now that's key, okay? Keep that in mind. It's an all-night job, okay? It's very unique. This is an all-nighter, okay? If you're a Kohen, and you are the one that's given the job to do the olah, you are awake the whole night. Okay, bear that in mind as we move on. So this is kol halayla ad haboker, until the morning. Ve'esh hamizbeach tukad bo, and the fire of the mizbeach will burn on the mizbeach. It'll be in the olah as well. Okay, so that's the first pasuk, gentlemen. Believe it or not, we're going to talk a lot about this first pasuk. Okay. So here we go. So Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Tzav et Aaron ve'et banav lemor. So command Aaron and his sons about this olah offering, the burnt offering. You have to command them. Says Rashi, why the strong language? Tzav et Aaron, command Aaron and his sons. Command, command. What's the big deal over here? I mean, obviously it's a very important mitzvah, but why more so than other korbanot where it doesn't say this? So Rashi says over here like this: whenever you see the word command in the Torah, the word command means it has to be ziruz, which means you have to tell Aaron, you have to tell his sons that they have to be on it, they have to do it fast, they have to get into it right away. Right? That's number one. Now, not only that, but it's miyad, it should take place right away. Uledorot, and it's always and forever. This is never going to change. Meaning, so long as we have the services of the temple, this rule is always there. Somebody brings an olah, this is how you do it. Okay? Now, Rashi then adds another line. Amar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon said, this is a Gemara in Kiddushin, ביותר צריך הכתוב לזרז במקום שיש בו חיסרון כיס, which means the reason that Hashem told Moshe, command Aaron and his sons. You know why there was a need to command Aaron and his sons? Because there's a loss of money over here. And whenever there's a loss of money, you have to really push the people to do it because people don't like to lose money. Now, the big question over here is, where is there a loss of money by the offering of the Korban Olah? Right? All they're doing is they're taking an animal, which is not their own funds, right? The Kohanim are going to offer up an Olah offering, and that's it. Where's their loss of money involved over here? You understand the question? What?
They're not going to eat it.
Okay. So Bobby's saying very nicely that they're not going to eat it. Very good. So this is a very nice question, right? You're a very nice explanation. So you should know, Bobby, that you're not alone in that, okay? I'm going to tell you who says what you said, because I saw this brought down. This is actually in the Siftei Chachamim. What you just said, and I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit, is actually one suggestion made by the Siftei Chachamim to explain what Rashi just told us. Let's go over it again. Very nice answer, Bobby. Very good. Says the Siftei Chachamim. He says, you want to know where there's a loss of money over here? I'll tell you. He says, it doesn't literally mean a loss of money. It's not the typical, oh, he just lost, a few $1,000s. No, it's not what it means. What it means is like this. The average Kohen doing the work in the temple, he has a certain amount of, so to say, money to make. What does that mean? It means that, like we said, the Kohanim often will offer, let's say, a peace offering, they'll offer up a sin offering, the different offerings they bring, and their service of offering up this offering is that the reward for that is they get portions of meat. And they eat that. They could give it to their family, and they could, right? That's something that they get. Okay? If you're quote unquote unlucky, so then you get a guy that shows up with an olah. He gives you an olah. Guess what? You know what you get from the olah? Nothing. You get hides, right? So in other words, there are two options for me. I have a guy who's coming in with a Thanksgiving offering when that guy is bringing 40 loaves of bread, which is amazing, right? Different types of bread. And then I have a guy coming with an olah. Who do I want to service more?
The other guy.
The other guy, right? So chisaron kis, according to this, doesn't really mean losing money. Instead, it means, according to like what Bobby's saying, is that no, you're not losing money, but you're not really getting anything, right? You're not making it. It's not worth it for you. Why would I invest? And not only you're not making anything, but it's all my job. So the guy shows up. You have to stand up and be awake the whole night, making sure every last little bit of it gets burned. That's your job. You're on top of
At
this
the night
korban.
they should do it.
They slaughter it in the day, but it has to burn the whole night long. That's what it says. It says like this. It says, Zot Olah hi ha'olah al mokda al mizbeach kol halayla. All night long, it has to be on the mizbeach the whole time. You have to make sure that every little bit of it gets burnt. No, the olah. The olah.
For banquet, they could put it in the daytime.
You have to slaughter it in the daytime. You have to slaughter it in the daytime. Put the blood in the daytime.
And other
all daytime.
But they have to burn it in the night.
Yeah, but this one goes all night.
I know.
Yeah.
The korban chet.
Korban chatat.
They have to do at the nighttime also.
Does it have to be the burning all night? No. Yeah, that's the difference. Right, that's the difference. So over here, this is a job that this guy has to go ahead and do. He's not getting anything from it. No meat. He gets the hides. He gets the skin. What I need the skin for? Maybe he needs a little bit of it, but whatever. It's not like right. So what? What is the reason for it to be all night? It's a very different korban. This korban has different rules. It's got to get totally burnt up. Totally burnt up. That's the idea of this korban.
What is the korban for?
Oh, very good question. Why would somebody bring a korban olah? So let's talk about it. There are three reasons that somebody would bring a korban olah. The first reason is if a person had bad thoughts. That is the primary reason. Somebody had bad thoughts, inappropriate thoughts. He had a hirur avera. So there's no real action that he did, but the olah is there to atone for that bad thought that he had. That's number one. Also, an olah is there for somebody who did not perform a positive mitzvah. Let's say somebody missed the day of tefillin. He should bring a korban olah, right? Let's say somebody did a sin that was able to be fixed. For example, a person stole something. You can't steal, that's a sin. But you could return the object and fix the sin that you did, right? So you bring a korban olah for that too. Those are the three reasons generally that you bring a korban olah. Clear?
So,
yeah.
Every night there's probably hundreds of these korbans being done.
So yes, I mean, we generally the Beit HaMikdash is a very busy place. There's a lot. It's a whole nation. It's servicing an entire nation. Correct.
Rabbi, there's no policing this. It's volunteer.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. But people had the opportunity to cleanse themselves. They wanted that. They didn't.
If it was a tzad,
Exactly. Exactly. If they could, they would do it. So now here's the story. So the first answer is what Bobby said. It's not really a loss of money, but it's a job that doesn't really make much for you if you're a Kohen. You have to work hard and you're not really getting anything for it, so to say. So the reason that the Torah says, Hashem says to Moshe, Tzav et Aaron, command Aaron, they should be on top of it. They have to be on top of it, that they should go and they should do it, in spite of the fact that they're not really standing to gain much from this korban. Okay? Very good. So that is brought down by the Siftei Chachamim. Excellent answer, Bobby. Kol hakavod. Now, by the way, there was something like this. There was something like this that happened in the time of Eli. Eli had two sons, Chofni and Pinchas. Eli was the shofet in the time of at the end of the period of the Shoftim, right before Shmuel made Shaul into the first king, right? So Shmuel was a prophet that was born because Eli gave a bracha to Chana. Chana was not able to have children, and Eli, the Kohen Gadol, said to her, "What are you doing?" And she was praying, but she wasn't actually saying anything. It was inaudible. So Eli thought she was drunk, and eventually she told him, "No, I'm not really doing anything crazy. I'm not drunk. I'm just praying." And Eli said, "Okay, Hashem should bless you with a child." She had a child, Baruch Hashem, and the name was Shmuel. They named the baby Shmuel, and he became a great prophet, etc. And he was the one that made Shaul the first king. The sons of Eli, Chofni and Pinchas, were guilty of a very similar problem. It says in the Navi something really scary. It says that Chofni and Pinchas were having relations with all the married women that were coming to Beit HaMikdash. And that's like a wild statement, wild. So the Gemara says that don't get the wrong idea. They didn't have relations with them. It's not what it means. What it means is that the women that came to bring their sacrifices after having given birth, remember, when a woman gives birth, she has to bring sacrifices, either turtle doves or pigeons, right? But these are birds, right? So what they would do is Chofni and Pinchas would send, I guess they wanted a lot of meat, or they wanted to provide for their family. I don't know exactly what it was. So they would send their kids, or they would send the workers in the temple, the Kohanim, to go and to take the food from the meat, even before they sprinkled the blood on the altar, before they actually performed the service. They would, and not only that, but they would send them with these huge forks with 3 prongs, and they would just say, whatever your fork gets in the pot that they're cooking over there, bring it to us, right? So they were taking even more than what they were supposed to get. And there was a big problem. So why does it say that they were sleeping with the married women? The answer is because when ladies came with their pigeons or their doves after having a baby, which is what they're supposed to do 7 days after a baby or 14 days after a baby girl, so then they would send them to the back of the line. Why? Because why would I waste my time on your little bird? When your little bird gives me this much meat, it's nothing, pigeon, versus I can bring this sheep, or I can bring this lamb, or I could bring this goat, right? And I get a huge thing. So every time they would come to do their korban, they would send them to the back. So they were getting delayed. They were getting delayed from going back to their husbands. So says the Gemara, it's as if they slept with them. They didn't really sleep with them, but it's as if, because they prevented them from being with their husbands. You understand? So there's a concept out there that the Kohanim, sometimes have these interests that, or potentially could have an interest that would be to the detriment of the guy bringing it, because they just don't have the time to deal with, the stuff that's not so interesting to them. So you want me to do an olah for you when I could do a shlamim for that guy? Shlamim is the peace offering where you get tons of meat and everything. Why should I bother with this olah guy, right? That's again, you see, one of the things about Torah, remember this, Torah is real. Torah paints the picture in the most real way. Nobody is exempt from Yetzer Hara. Nobody is exempt from mistakes. Torah tells us about Moshe Rabbeinu's mistakes, about Aaron HaKohen's mistake. These are the people that we don't even understand the level that we're talking about. We have no idea who we're dealing with. But still, the Torah wants us to know every little detail. So here, Hashem says, you got to command them, be on top of them, tell them to do it. There are no games over here. They have to do it. So that's the first answer. Very nice job, Bobby. But we're not done. We have a bunch more answers to go through. Says the Paneach Raza. Okay, one of the great Rishonim. He says like this. He says, the reason that again, what's the question that we're trying to answer? The question is, Rashi says, that you have to command them to do it. Why? Because whenever there's a loss of money involved, people get wishy-washy. They don't start to do it. So you got to be on top of them. Tell them to do it fast and right away. What loss of money? So Bobby said, well, they're not really losing money. They're just not making. Okay, fine. But over here, there's a different answer from the Paneach Raza, and he says the following. He says, "Mipnei shayu tzrichim le'akitz kol halayla." Since they had to be awake all night long, they're losing money. So explains one of the commentaries on the Paneach Raza. His name is Raza de Meir. He says, because what does that mean? HaKohen she'ekitz bezeh kol halayla, the guy that's awake the whole night. He's not Superman. He has to go to sleep at the daytime. Oh, you have to sleep during the daytime? So you can't go to work. You can't do your job. Even if you're at home and you want to do some work at home, you can't do it. So you know that you have an all-night job now. Now you can't. Now you're going to lose money tomorrow. You can't go to work. How are you going to go to work? You understand? So Tzav, command them. What? They have to do it anyway. Yes, you're not going to be able to go to work tomorrow morning. Yes, you're not going to be able to do work at your home. Yes, okay, doesn't matter. You have to do it. So he's not interested, too bad. Right? That's, again, this is real. This is how it works. Then, this is what we call one Jew, two opinions. The very same book, the Paneach Raza gives another answer. And he says like this. He says, if the halacha demands that you stay awake the whole night, then for you to fall asleep is a big problem. Again, you are in charge of this guy's olah, right? So you have to stand over this and you have to make sure that every little bit of it gets burnt on the mizbech. You have an all-night job. Okay. If we see you falling asleep on the job, you're in trouble, right? Okay, so what would these people have to do? They would have to pay somebody to be on top of them to make sure they don't fall asleep.
Have to be Kohen?
Yeah, somebody.
That somebody must be Kohen.
It could be a Kohen, maybe it could be a Levi too. I'm not sure.
No, it would be like a
Only
janitor.
Kohen
Are you talking about the mamados?
No, not Mamadot. No, I'm talking about somebody who would be around. It could be that maybe the Kohen is allowed to be walk outside of the area of the temple, and there a Jew could be. I mean, not the temple, outside of the inner courtyard, and there he could have a regular Israel wake him up. But it's probably a Kohen. The point is he needs to hire somebody to be on top of him that he shouldn't fall asleep. And if you see the guy starting to doze off, he yanks you, he hits you, something. Right? So he has to pay him something. That's why this is on keys. That's why it says, because you're losing money like that. So here you're trying to do your job as a Kohen to bring the person in Olah, and guess what? Now you have to pay somebody, you have to pay out of pocket money in order that he should wake you up in case you fall asleep. So over here again, the guy is not interested because of this cost that he has, this fee that he's going to have to pay. Okay. Now, in a similar vein, I'm going to share with you a very interesting. So I have a question. Okay. In a very similar vein, I thought it might be worthwhile to talk a little bit about the idea of the job of the Leviim in the temple, and to see something really interesting about similarly what we just said. What is the job of the Leviim in the temple? If you look in the Rambam, Perek Gimel, Halacha Bet of Hilchot Klei HaMikdash ve'Avdim Bo. The Rambam in chapter 3, Halacha number 2, in the laws of the vessels of the temple and those who work in the temple, he says like this: the tribe of Levi, Avodah Shelahen Hi. What's the job of the Leviim in the Bet HaMikdash? So their job was like this: Sheyihu Shomrim Et HaMikdash. They have a job to watch over the temple. So they are literally the guards of the temple.
And singing too.
Wait, that's number one. So first job is they guard the temple. V'yumem sho'arim. They have to stand by the gates of the temple. Liftoach she'arei hamikdash, to open up the gates of the temple. Ulehagif daltotav, and to lock up the doors. V'yumen mishorim leshorer ala korban b'chol yom. You also have to have people of the tribe of Levi that will sing when they offer up the daily offering every day. So that's their job, okay? So again, they have to watch over, guard over the temple. They have to stand by the gates to open and lock the gates. They also have to sing by the temple, okay? Now, over here, there's a really interesting case, okay? Listen to this very interesting Mishnah in Masechet Midot. It says like this. This is Masechet Midot, Seder Perek Aleph Mishnah Bet. It says the following: Seder Avodatam Shel Shomrei Bet HaMikdash Balayla. What was the way they watched the temple at night? Ditnan. It says in the Mishnah, Ish Har Habayit. There was a man that was in charge of all the people that guarded over the Temple Mount. He was in charge. It's called Ish Har Habayit, the man of the Temple Mount. Haya mechazer al kol mishmar u'mishmar. He would go to each station where the guards were watching. V'avukot dolkin lefanav, and he had torches in his hand. Right? He had torches. He wanted the guards to see that he was coming near. You know, when you see the cops waving their lights, you get a little bit, more. He's got the torch. He's walking by. He's coming to check on you to make sure that you're doing your job. Right? So he's got the torch. Now, v'chol mishmar she'eino omed lefanav. If let's say there's a group of guards that the minute they see him, they don't immediately stand up from their position. Omer lo ish har habayit, shalom alecha. So then he wants to see, are they awake or not? Why didn't they stand up? So he says to them, shalom alecha, hello to you, right? Now, look what happens. If he doesn't answer, nikar shu yashen, we see that he's sleeping. So what happens? Chovto b'maklo, he whacks the guy with his stick, boom, right? And now he wakes him up, and guess what? Reshut hayalo lisrof et ksuto. This Ish Har Habayit, the man of the Temple Mount, now has full authority to take that Levi's clothing and burn it. He has the full authority to take the guy's clothes and to burn his clothing. Why? Dereliction of duty. You're not doing your job. You're supposed to go ahead and watch the Har Habayit, and instead you're sleeping on the job, literally. So therefore, not only can I whack you, I can also take your clothing and burn it. And you're going to be left with nothing, right? It's a serious thing.
Take off his clothing and do that?
I don't know exactly how they'll keep him, how they'll replace it, but they'll do something. Now, what happens if a Kohen fell asleep? Okay, so over here they bring down that he's not allowed to hit a Kohen. Why? Because it says v'kidashto. You have to sanctify the Kohen. You can't hit the Kohen and degrade him like that.
The
Leviim you could. So you see a Levi, it's different. But a Kohen, you can't do that. Fine. But there is going to be some penalty. Some penalty there will be. So again, why is there chisaron kis? This is a beautiful answer from this beautiful book, Otzar Pelot Torah. He says where's the loss of money for this Kohen? In the event that he sleeps on the job and they catch him sleeping on the job, they're going to fine him. They're not going to hit him, but they will fine him. Yeah, he's going to get a fine. So therefore, says Rashi over here, nobody's going to want to do the job. Because who wants to get into a job that if you mess up, you're going to get fined for it? Who needs that? So therefore, Tzav, command him. Why? Why doesn't? Because there's chisaron kis, because there's a loss of money potentially involved. Okay?
Who's hitting Rabbi?
The one in charge of the mishmarot. The one in charge of the mishmarot is hitting the Levi. You can't hit the Kohen, but the Levi, you could.
And
very.
And the Levim, they could eat also part of Korban Shalamim from Kohen.
Even a non-Levi could eat the Korban. Yeah. Even a non-Levi, even me and you could have part of the Korban Shalamim. Not the part for the Kohen.
Okay. I know, but which? Not the part of
the part for the Kohen goes to him, and we cannot have it. But the part that goes to us, anybody can have it. That's the shlamim. Okay, beautiful.
How about the other korbanot also?
What?
We have other korbanot too. We have different korbanot. Right?
Yes.
So other korbanot also Levi could have some.
Yes, just like only if we could. If we could, then Levi could. He doesn't have anything special. The parts for the Kohanim go only Kohanim. And then there are parts that everybody else could have.
But Kohanim, they could give some person of what they make to Leviim.
No.
Or they have to consume it?
That if let's say there's a part of the animal, for example, the thigh, I think it's the thigh, the zroa, right? That goes to the Kohen, right? Shank bone, I think they call it. So let's say that part goes to the Kohen. Now, we cannot have that. We're not allowed to have. For me, you and the Levi, it's like eating treif.
It can't be sold to us?
But
Right?
I know what you're talking about. I know.
It's like for us, it's not kosher. We can't eat it because it's only for a Kohen.
The ma'aser they used to give to Beit HaMikdash to Kohanim, right?
The truma.
Truma.
Yes.
Right? But part of the truma, the Kohanim they should give to Levi as a percentage. Like they get
No. The opposite. The opposite. When we give 10% to the Levi, the Levi, when he receives it, he has to give 10% to the Kohen.
The Kohen never gives to the Levi.
No.
With my friend in Levi, they don't Kohen, they give it.
Yeah, correct. No, only the Levi, the Kohanim don't give to the Levi. Okay, so now I want to share with you one more answer. Again, where is the chisaron key? So let's just review briefly what we said so far. The first answer, Bobby said, Siftei Chachamim, that really it's not about losing money. It's just that you're not going to make money. You just get the hides for doing the olah, and it's not so enjoyable. It's a lot of work and not really much pay, quote unquote. That's number one. Second answer we said was the fact that if they work all night, then they're not going to be able to work the following day because they're going to fall asleep. They won't be able to go to work. That's number two. Number three, if you fall asleep on the night shift, that's a big problem. So how do you stay awake? You have to pay somebody to keep you awake, right? So that's a fee that you're going to have to go through. That's number three. Number four, we said that just like if a Levi falls asleep, so then the Ish Har Habayit, the man of the Temple Mount, could whack him and burn his clothing. So even though you can't do that to a Kohen who falls asleep on the job, but it's very likely that they would give him some kind of monetary fine. So therefore, he's not interested in that. So that's the chisaron kis. That's why somebody might not want to do it. Therefore, says the Torah, Tzav, command him so that he makes sure to do it anyway. Okay, one final answer about this, and that is the following. This comes from the Kli Yakar, quoting the Chizkuni. Again, it's amazing. You see how many different angles there are. Just one question. Now, if a Kohen offers up your offering and has in mind the wrong thoughts, he could kill your offering. Okay? Let's say, for example, a Korban Shlamim. Korban Shlamim is something that you could eat. You have 1 night and 2 days to eat it. So let's say it's 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I come to the temple and I bring a peace offering to Hashem. The fellow slaughters the animal. Okay, he goes to sprinkle the blood of the animal on the corners of the altar, and as he's doing it, he's saying, "Wow, this is going to make a great lunch for me." You know when? In 2 or 3 days from now. So he has in mind to eat this offering in about 3 days. Ooh, you know what he just did? He just killed your korban. Because he's only allowed to eat it today, tonight, and tomorrow by sunset. That's all he's got. If he's having in mind to have it tomorrow night for dinner, then already he's having in mind to eat it out of the permitted time. That's called pigul. Pigul means that when he was doing the service of the sacrifice, he had in mind that he's going to eat it at the wrong time. Big problem. Pigul.
How would you know?
Right?
It doesn't tell you.
So he's going to tell you, he's going to be honest with you, and he's going to say, look, I'm very sorry, but I totally forgot that I'm not allowed to eat this thing tomorrow night, and I had in mind that I'm going to have this for dinner. It's going to be my steak dinner tomorrow night. Sorry. So guess what happens now? Right?
The Kohen has to pay.
The Kohen, he's got to pay, right? He's got to pay you another animal,
For
basically.
his mistake, he doesn't have to be.
Yossi, I see you. Yossi, אתה שומע, Yossi? Yossi, you got to do a good job, Yossi. Very good. Anyway,
So, Rabbi, what
yeah.
kind of thought?
Huh?
Only this kind of thought, or he's having bad thoughts, it's also possible.
So if he has in mind that he's going to think about it, he's thinking about eating at the wrong time, he could kill everything. So now he has to bring you a korban. Now over here, so what? Why is this any worse than a regular sacrifice? That, like we just talked about, was a korban shlamim. So what's the big deal about this versus an olah? Why doesn't it say it's according to this, which is the answer the Chizkuni gives? Why does it not say Tzav, which means command them to do it because there's a loss of money? Well, there's a loss of money by other sacrifices where you have the wrong thoughts too. Why specifically over here by the olah does it say it? So comes along the Kli Akar and explains this really interesting answer. He says like this. He starts off with the Gemara. The Gemara talks about one of the greatest rabbis who ever lived. His name was Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, it says in the Gemara that somebody stole his wallet. Somebody stole his wallet. And when they stole his wallet, he was very sad. So people were asking him questions about halachot and things like that. He wasn't able to answer. Why? He was down about his wallet. Interesting, right? So the Gemara says, that's what happens when, someone like Rabbi Yochanan has his wallet stolen. How much more so, us regular people, we're not going to be able to think straight. Now, what keeps a person from thinking bad thoughts? The fact that he's involved in Torah learning. It says Torah learning can kick away bad thoughts. So that means if we are in a state where we lost money, if Rabbi Yochanan wasn't able to think clearly in learning because he was depressed about losing the money, then how much more so if one of us, a regular person, is lost money, we won't be able to think clearly, and therefore that'll create this vacuum of no Torah in our heads. So what happens? Then whoever comes to our heads. So here's the problem. The difference between this korban, which is an olah, versus the other korbanot, is that the whole purpose of bringing the olah is what? What did we start off the shiur with? You had bad thoughts. Now, this guy just messed up your olah. He had in mind, let's say, that's going to burn more than tonight. It's going to go until the following morning. He just destroyed your olah. So now what does he have to do? He has to take money out of his pocket and pay for another olah. Oh, now he's losing money. So he's depressed about losing money. Oh, you're depressed about losing money? Then you can't think in Torah. You can't think straight. Oh, you can't think straight? So what's going to come to your head? More bad thoughts. You follow that? Right?
Never-ending cycle.
It's a never-ending cycle. So therefore, says the Kli Yakar, that's the reason why over here Hashem says, make sure that they do it and they do a good job and they don't mess this one up. Because if they mess this one up, then they're going to have to pay money out of pocket to get the guy another one. Oh, they're going to have to pay money out of pocket. That means they're going to be down and depressed. They're going to be down and depressed. That means they're going to not think Torah. They're not going to think Torah. They're going to think bad thoughts. And they're going to think bad thoughts. Then the next Olah is not going to work either. Right? It's a vicious cycle. So that's
him making mistake also, he should be in the Korban Olah. Kohen by himself.
the Kohen, anybody, if he has bad thoughts, if he has any kind of
So that means if he lose money, then he has
to bring it all out now. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very good point.
Right, so he has to get the guy one and himself bring one.
He might,
So
if he knows that he had a bad thought, then yeah. Abutai. That's really, I mean, what you see from all this is the very powerful effect that money has over us. You see that if a person for some reason is losing money, it has a big effect on him. It has a very powerful effect on the person, and he can't handle it. So, it's important for us to understand that sometimes we will behave differently when money is being lost. Like the Gemara talks about the idea that there's never a wedding in the Jewish people where there isn't some kind of a fight over money. There's always some kind of a fight between both sides, the sides of the Chatan, side of the Kala. There's always something about money.
there's a reason
Right?
for that.
There is a reason for that. We spoke about that in the past. The reason is because it says when the Jewish people received the mitzvah of not marrying certain ladies, for example, it used to be a brother could marry a sister, right? Once the Jews got that rule at Matan Torah, when they were told you cannot marry your sister anymore, they started crying because it used to be a very good match. They're from this, they know the family, it's a good family. They used to want to do, or forget about it. Let's say, God forbid, a person's brother passed away and he had kids. So many times another brother would want to step in and take over for his brother that died. They can't do that anymore because you can't marry a brother's wife or a mother-in-law or a daughter-in-law or all these things that used to be permitted. You can't do it. So when the Torah when we got the Torah, they started crying about these rules. So Hashem said, you're crying about who you're not allowed to marry? I'm going to make you cry every time there's a wedding. Which means there's going to be somebody that's going to get upset about something, about this side, about that side, about something. There's going to be some issue whenever there's a wedding. On the other hand, when Avraham Avinu got the mitzvah of Brit Milah, they were rejoicing. Avraham made a big party. So till this day, Baruch Hashem, Brit Milah is a smooth event. No issue. Except for the baby. Right?
when Yitzhak Avinu also he get married, it wasn't no problem. He gave a lot of money to Eliezer.
Yeah, I hear. Well, that's what the Gemara says. At any rate, here's the story. So therefore, what's the big deal? You and I could be best friends. But if we have to make a wedding together, my son and your daughter, whatever the situation may be, all of a sudden, it's very different. Why? Because now it's about who's spending what, how much are you spending, how much am I spending, and everybody gets very involved, and it's a little bit, and it's very sensitive, right? It gets into a different thing. So the chisaron kis, the loss of money, changes the person, makes him different. Again, Rabbi Yochanan wasn't able to think straight. I didn't finish the story, by the way. The story ends off that his brother-in-law, Reish Lakish, who started off his life as a professional thief, he started off his life as a gangster. When he saw that they took his wallet, he whipped out his old skill set and ran after them and got the wallet and brought it back to Rabbi Yochanan, and he gave it to him, and then Rabbi Yochanan gave the best shurim, and he was clear and everything was good because he got his wallet back. Listen, again, I'm oversimplifying. I'm sure that there are huge Kabbalistic things that I'm not aware about, and all these things. They're very deep. But the point is that it was something that was significant enough to cause an issue for him. Okay, so therefore you see it's very important. Now, I want to just emphasize another thing. Chisaron kis means being willing to lose some money. Sometimes people are not able to part with their money. They can't give it up. They can't spend the $1,000 on the pair of tefillin. How come it's so expensive? How come the lulav and etrog is so expensive? What is this? A lemon? It's $100. What is this thing? Right? It hurts them that they have to spend this money. Right? It's a problem. What we're learning over here is that Hashem wants us to. Hashem knows that we have this problem, and that's why Hashem tells Aaron, tells Moshe, make sure Aaron and his sons are on their game and they don't give up. Yes, they might lose a little money because of it, but it's not a reason that they shouldn't do their job. So it's the same thing with us. Yes, it might cost little money. The tefillin might be $1,200, and the lulav and etrog might be another $150, and this and that might be so. Yes, it's going to cost you money, and it's going to cost you money. But this is the mitzvah to spend your. Why did Hashem give you the money? So you keep it in your pocket? No, you spend it on the mitzvah.
Sometimes Hashem do the money, but he punished the guy. He doesn't let him spend, and he has more. He suffer more. He has money,
right? And he can't spend it.
So he suffer more.
Correct.
So
right.
That's Hashem.
Right. Exactly. That's a big problem. It's suffering. I told you the story that Rabbi Galinsky says over a story about this fellow that he was on his deathbed. I think he was there. He was there. They asked him to come and to say Shema for this guy that was about to die. Now this guy, he had a safe that he had saved up decades and decades of money in this safe, and jewels and all kinds of things. And it was everything that he had. And he said to the people in the room, you should know, he realizes he's about to die. He says, you should know, everything I saved up is in that safe over there. So the rabbi said, okay, well, how do we open it? So he says, I have the key. So he said, okay. Now again, he's not asking him for anything, but you're telling us that means you want us to have it, right? Okay. So he says, maybe you want to give the key to the safe. So it says he starts, and again, the man's about to die. So he starts shaking his hand. He's got the key and he gives it. He's on the way to giving it to the rabbi. And as he's about to give it to him, he says, Oberst is doch meine, but it's mine. And he drops dead. He retracted it. He couldn't give the key, even though what's he gonna do with the money at this point? There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to buy. You already lived your life. What do you have to do with this money? He couldn't part with the money, even though there's nothing to do with it. It's a big problem. So that's what Hashem is telling Aaron over here. He's saying, I know you're not getting exactly what you want. It's not meat, it's the hides. You're gonna have to pay money to some guy to keep you away. There's gonna be a financial situation for you. Do it. You don't have a choice. This is the mitzvah, this is what it is. And Hashem is commanding. Right now we have Pesach. Whoa. Hashem gave us a Yom Tov, then Porat Yosef. $36 a pound for matzah. All the wine, Baruch Hashem, all the meat, Baruch Hashem, everything is, it's thousands and thousands of dollars for the Chag. And if you're going away, it could be, it's a say, even more, whatever. It's the Chag. Do it with a smile, happy, with love. Why? Tzav. This is the mitzvah. This is what your job is.
If you wife want $1,000, you have $2,000.
There you go. That's the attitude. That's the attitude. With love, with a smile. I'm happy. That's the thing. We have to do it with a smile. So that's the thing. Even though there's the chisaron keys, with a smile. That's the idea. I want to share with you.
If you have more, buy shoe for yourself.
That's it. I want to just share with you briefly one more point over here. You'll notice if you look in a Sefer Torah, again, we haven't even gotten past the second pasuk of the Parashat. So it says, Zot Torah ha'olah hi ha'olah al mokdah. The word mokdah the Unclus translates it as it's going to be burnt on the Mizbeach. So the word mokdah means being burnt. If you look in the Sefer Torah, you'll see that the mem of the word mokdah is small. You can take a look over here. You see all the letters are this size. All of a sudden, this mem is very tiny.
Yeah, right.
You see that little mem? Okay. So over here, the question is why? Why is it that over here it's being burnt? Burnt. It's a fire that's going to be burnt. So says, I saw two beautiful pshatim, three beautiful explanations. First one comes from Oznaim LaTorah. He says that, as you know, on the Mizbeach were the altar. That was the big copper altar, huge, very tall, that had a huge ramp walking up to it, and the Kohanim had to walk up it, right? On the top, there were three groups of fire. One was called the Ma'aracha Gedolah, which means the big fire of the Mizbeach, Ma'aracha Gedolah. So over here, says the Oznaim LaTorah like this. The Mokdah over here, where it says that this Olah is going to be burnt in the big fire. Big fire. Why is it that the mem is small? So says the Oznaim LaTorah, because every mem, every fire, anything that's big, really, anything that's grand, Hashem wants to teach us that we have to make it small, humble. Be humble. He gives an example. He says the halacha is, how many times do we bow in the Amidah? We bow 4 times. We bow in the first blessing twice, Baruch and Baruch, right? We bow in Modim twice. That's a total of 4. He says, but it says in the very same Gemara that the Kohen Gadol bows at the beginning and end of each bracha. Every bracha. So let's say, yeah, exactly. So let's say he's at Chonen Adar, he says, Baruch Ata Hashem, Chonen Adar. Baruch Ata Hashem,
They didn't have Shemona,
I would say B'tshuva.
They didn't have Shemona, so they had
in the second temple they did.
They didn't.
Yeah. So they established that he should do first and last of every single blessing. Question is why? We only do 4, he does all of them. The answer is because he's Kohen Gadol. So he's the head honcho. You're the head honcho, Hashem reminds you have to bow more. Right? You have to be humble.
Only Kohen Gadol.
Only Kohen Gadol, right? You're Mr. Hotshot, shrink it a little bit, right? Be humble. That's the idea. So this is the big fire of the Mizbeach. Hashem says Mukdah, little men, right? To be humble.
Yeah.
That's why it's little men. Another answer that I saw, because Mukdah means is that it represents the fire of a Jew. Sometimes a Jewish man could be on fire. He could be so passionate about everything. But the problem is that he goes around and announces it to the whole world. You know those guys? And they go around and they start telling you, how can we do this? How can we do that? How come this and how come that? He starts to give it to you, Why do you do that? And he starts to, his passion, his fire is spreading all over the place. But hey, tzaddik, relax. Keep it keep it quiet. Small men. Your fire is great, but small. And one more beautiful pshat that I saw. Sometimes you see a Jew that you just don't see that his Jewish neshama is there. You don't see anything. You say to the guy, what do you say on a cup of water? He doesn't know that you say sha'ako. He has no clue. He doesn't know anything. There's no fire. There's no passion. He doesn't care. He lives life like a goy, right? So, what do we do with such a guy? So over here, Mukdah, the little mem means you don't see the fire. You don't see the neshama of this person. It's very small, but it's there. And if you work on revealing it, bringing it out, you'll see that it will come out.
Maybe his neshama is bigger than the guy he pray 3 times a day.
It's very possible. Very possible. You don't see it. The fire is almost not there. He's got nothing there. It's little men. But if you work to reveal it, you'll see it. That's the message of
maybe he did something very good, and
there's I heard an interesting story. There's a man that recently passed away. He was good friends with Donald Trump. The story goes that he says his name was, I think, Mr. Chera. That was his name. He says an interesting story about Chacham Shaul Kassin. He was the chief rabbi of the Syrian community when everybody first came from Syria to New York. So when he came to New York, this fellow, Mr. Chera, he had a store that he was selling things, and his store was open on Shabbat. And this guy would go on his way to his store on Shabbat, and he would always pass the Rabbi Kassin, on the way to Shul. So he would see the rabbi is going this way to the Bet HaKnesset, and this guy is going that way to his store. Okay. Well, on Shabbat, he would always walk by. They'd walk by each other. One time there was a bar mitzvah. There was some kind of a simcha, and this man, he was invited to the simcha. So he turns around, and he instead of going to work, he's going now to the shul. So as he's walking, the rabbi sees him and he says, "That's better," like that. Like he knows the whole time he's going to work, right? So he sees him in shul. Fine. So next Shabbat, when he sees the guy walking to his store, he says to the guy, "Listen, I have a suggestion for you. Why don't you come to the shul? Come to shul, and then afterwards do what you want to do. Just come to shul first, right?" So he says, "Okay." He goes to shul, he finishes, and he goes to his store, opens up. Okay, fine. And this happens, a bunch more weeks. Then he says to him, "Listen, come to shul. Afterwards, sit at home, have a meal with your family, and then go to work." Right? I don't know if he said go to work, but then go do what you got to do. Right? Okay. And he starts to do that. So he's already coming to shul. He's already having lunch with his family. Eventually, he enjoyed it very much. Eventually, he just stopped going to work on Shabbat. Right? Like that. So again, here's a person that you see this guy has nothing to do with anything. But there is something there. So you start to work with a little bit, you start to reveal a little bit, and then eventually, Baruch Hashem, the guy comes around. So it's a very important. That's the little mem. You see a little mem this big, but there's something really there.
It's in Sus.
Yes. Mitzvot Hayehudi, exactly. All right, guys, we're done over here. Thank you so much for joining us. Chazakim u'bruchim.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We're not going to. Thank you. Next week we're not going to have shiur because it's going to be b'dikat chametz. Wishing you all a chag kasher v'sameach. Thank you so much. Sorry, you were saying something, Mechila.
No, I just said chag kasher v'sameach.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Chag sameach, everybody. Quote too.